Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He is a former ECW and WWE referee. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only John Finegan.
Okay.
Welcome, John, to Wrestling with Heart.
How are you, Stan? How are we doing?
Talk to me about your childhood and upbringing. Where did you grow up?
Actually, was born in Philadelphia. Was there till I was 9 years old, and our family moved to New Jersey. My dad always worked in New Jersey, so he was tired of commuting back and forth. So he moved the family when I was nine into Jersey, and been there ever since. Yeah, I'm still living in Jersey now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when I talk to people, especially people from the ECW days, that whole territory, that Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, there was a lot of wrestling you could catch. I mean,
Oh, I used to go to the old Spectrum in Philadelphia with my. It was funny. If there would be a Phillies game across the street of the Vet, then the WWF at that time was at the Spectrum. So my dad and uncle would drop me off at the Spectrum, buy me a ticket, send me into the wrestling show, and they'd go to the Phillies, and we meet afterwards. So I remember that like it was yesterday. I was at those Spectrum shows every month in Philly.
oh, really? What were like
Yeah.
some of your favorite shows to go see or favorite wrestlers you enjoyed watching?
Well, but the guy who really caught my imagination way back when was Dusty Rhodes. He's why I got into the business. I always found him so entertaining. I thought he was ahead of his time as a performer. I mean, not the greatest wrestler in the world, but great personality, great promo, just an all around entertainer. And I just caught on to him quickly, and he's what started me going. Actually, my grandmother. That's who I started watching with. Was my grandmother, probably around 5 years old, and she loved him as well. And she actually liked superstar Billy Graham. She liked the bad guys, and they had a big feud back in the WWF days. So yeah, Dusty was my hook into the business.
Yeah, Dusty had so much charisma and really cared about fostering young talent as he went on to do in his time in NXT. But he really cared about the business, just had so much passion, and you could tell in his work, with the superstars and wrestlers that he feuded with over the years. Um, Now, did you know right then and there you wanted to get into the business, or did that come around later?
No, I it probably a year or two after that, probably 7, 8 when I was a little older, and but yeah, I always wanted to get involved somehow. And for some reason, I always latched on to the referees. I mean, I never attempted to be a wrestler. Um, Always looked at the referees, and for some reason, that just hooked me. And it turns out, being a referee, you get to do more on a show. You're doing more than one match. You're doing a few matches a night, getting involved in different things. And yeah, that's how I got hooked into it. I just wanted to be a ref.
Yeah, I mean you're basically playing double duty or sometimes even triple duty because you're going out there and you're like you said you're on TV a lot, you're on the pay-per-views, you're getting the chance to work with a variety of different talents. I mean both male and female. So,
Yep.
did you know at a young age refereeing was what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I like I said, I kind of just gravitated to that. I always found that interesting. Like if you're watching, used to always watch Saturday morning TV when I was younger, and Dick Worley back then was the guy on TV every Saturday morning here in this area, and he would do like two, three matches on the show that you're watching there Saturday morning. I said, wow, he's doing a lot. That's pretty interesting. A little more than one guy having one match wrestling. You got a referee who's able to work with different people, men, women. Back then, midgets. My actually first match ever was a midget match, which was funny. And but yeah, there was all kinds of different things that you were able to do on the show back then.
So at what point did you go through the proper channels and go, hey, I want to break in, I want to be a referee. How do I get started?
It's actually interesting. Well, interesting to me. Interesting story. There's a couple different avenues I went down. I used to work with my dad in a refrigeration company in purchasing in the purchasing department, and we got invited to a lot of different lunches with vendors and companies that we dealt with. And one particular one was at a restaurant locally, where it was for, I forget the charity, but there was a lot of local celebrities there, a lot of sports celebrities, local teams, Phillies, Flyers, Eagles. And one of the guys that was there was Gorilla Monsoon. So my boss knew I was so into wrestling. He said, "Oh, you got to go to this and see if you can meet him." Maybe I had talked to my boss saying, "I really want to get involved. I have no idea how to." And he happened to be there. That's why he had me go. So we went to that luncheon, and I always hate telling this part of the story on how I got started because of my experience with him. But Gorilla was there. I went right up to him, and immediately he went into kayfabe mode and really told me nothing. Pats me on the shoulder, and if you work hard and you do the right things, you'll end up getting where you want to be. And really never told me anything about how to get into the business. And then later on, I found out about the Monster Factory, which was very close to my where we lived in Cherry Hill. And at the time, Buddy Rogers was involved with Larry Sharp at the Monster Factory. And I knew Buddy lived in Haddonfield, which was like 10 minutes from my house in Cherry Hill. So one day, Saturday, I went to his house, Buddy Rogers, knocked on his door. He opened it up, invited me in, sat there for an hour talking to me. I asked him how I get in the business because I knew he was involved with the Monster Factory. And couldn't be nicer, couldn't be more helpful. He said, "Go see Larry Monday, tell him I sent you, and he'll get you going on the right path." So that Monday, I went out to Paulsboro at the time, to the Monster Factory, and Larry wasn't there. He was on vacation. And Dick Worley was there watching the school for him, who was the guy I watched on TV growing up every Saturday morning. And I got talking to Dick. He says, "Well, you were here to see Larry. Larry will be back Friday. So come back and talk to him. If you don't like what you hear, get back to me and we'll talk." So I went back that Friday. Larry was back. Larry brought me into his office and he talked to me. And the only thing Larry wanted to do was how I'm going to pay him, when I'm going to pay him, how much I'm going to pay him. It was all about what I'm paying Larry to get trained. And never once did he say, what did I want to do or how did I go about it? So I kind of left. I said, "I'll get back to you." I kind of left there, called Dick the next day. And he said, he just laughed and kind of without saying it, said, "That's kind of how Larry is. It's all about him getting paid," which I can understand. It's his business. But he says, "If you're not happy, I'll be more than happy to train you. You can travel around with me." Back then, the athletic commissions were big in wrestling. And Dick was involved in the PA Athletic Commission, Jersey, New York, Maryland. I traveled all over with him for a year and a half, and then he broke me into the business.
That's amazing, getting the
Yeah.
chance to learn from somebody like Larry Sharp and really, mold talent, who's worked with so many different people. So getting the chance to work with Larry, breaking in the business as a referee, what were some pointers that he gave you that you can recall today?
Well, it wasn't Larry that broke me. It was Dick Rowley that ended up. I was traveling around with Dick. So I really didn't have any conversation after that one night with Larry, other than maybe working for him a few years later with his promotion with Dennis Carluzzo. But Dick Worley was the guy who broke me in and taught me the ways. And I was lucky because traveling with him, he was heavily involved with the NWA, and they were running down in Maryland, Philly, Jersey, all over. And I went down with him to a first show I went travel with him was in Maryland, Baltimore Arena. And the main event was the Horsemen in a six-man tag against the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes. And I was telling Dick all the way down to Maryland that, my God, I'm here. I'm trying to get into this business because of Dusty Rhodes. And we're talking back and forth about Dusty. We get to the building. We're probably there half hour or so. And Dick calls me over. There's this big stage and curtain where a lot of the boys sat and watched the show, and family would sit up there. And Dick poked his head out the curtain. He waved me over. He said, "Come here." And he pulled me behind the curtain. And there he is. He's got Dusty Rhodes standing there. And Dusty was talking for a few minutes and was really putting Dick Worley over. "You got a good guy here. He'll teach you the right way. And look forward to sometime down the road to work with you and all the best." And patted me on the butt and away you went. But he couldn't have been nicer. And it was just so cool being able to meet him after. That's the guy I wanted to see.
Yeah,
or
your
when I was,
hero.
yeah. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, getting those pointers
Dick Worley.
from Dick, yeah, getting those pointers from Dick. What were some things that he taught you that you can still recall today and have applied to today, even after your time in the business?
It was funny because Dick was old school, and back then it was still kind of old school mentality, the believability. He really, he really kept business just, I guess, to see if I was going to hang around before he told me everything there is to tell me. And he was very. It's funny because he didn't really tell me a lot. Um, when I finally got my first match in the first show with him, he kind of, and in shows after that, he kind of pointed things out that I did and didn't do the right and wrong way. And it was never, I honestly, Stan, I never got direction on do this, do this, do this. I kind of just thought I knew what I was doing. And it turns out I was kind of a natural at it. And I kind of did know what I was doing. And he would only point little things out here and there. But he was big on letting guys, like you're the aggressor in the match. You're the guy in charge of the match. So be that way. Make sure you're the guy that's enforcing the rules. So enforce yourself. Make yourself look important in that match. And on top of that, always stay the hell out of the way. So that was you always and let the guys do what they got to do and know when to get involved and when to break them up and talk and not talk. And yeah, he was just very, very old school. Very told me very little, but in turn, it was actually telling me a lot over and over.
So you kind of taught yourself in a way because you're learning on the fly, you're learning on the job, and you're working with all these different people, and you're basically having to, in your mind go, okay, this is how this is done, and this is how this works, and
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, traveling with him when we went back to the Baltimore Arena a couple months later, we got there even earlier and they let me get in the ring just to run around with the guys. And we're talking Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Dusty, Road Warriors, Luger, all those guys back in that day were all around the ring talking about their match. Guys were getting in the ring, going over some spots. And I was able to get in and work with them, which was unbelievable experience and knowledge that I was picking up from everybody.
now I'm guessing you also worked some independent shows before ECW came in the picture. What was that experience like?
Oh yeah, I was lucky. Like I said, Dick was involved in the athletic commission, all the athletic commissions, and that's how you got assigned to shows, unless you're really new a promoter. So traveling around with Dick for that year plus, I met all the Jersey promoters, PA promoters, and Dick would have them request me each time they're in an area. So I got to know a lot of their promoters and was lucky enough to continue to be booked on shows month after month, and which was all the indie shows. There was, I mean, back then there was three, four, five indie shows a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Back there was so many shows going on. So you were lucky to you got a lot of experience, a lot of great knowledge. You met a lot of guys before they became WWE people or NWA people and on the indie scene. And you got to start somewhere, and it's great to learn on a smaller scale and then build yourself up as you go along.
Plus, networking also helps as well because you just
Oh,
never know
yeah,
where that could lead.
big. Yeah, back then was big because it was athletic commission who and the promoters and everything the promoters asked for was through the athletic commission. So I got lucky meeting Dick the way I did. He just happened to be there that night, and he was so tied into all the athletic guys, and I got lucky to make the connections that I did early.
Now on the way up, you're like you alluded to, you're meeting so many people that went on to be big names. Who were some of the people that you can recall, like you got to see and talk to before they became huge stars? Any memories that you want to share of rubbing shoulders with some of the top names in the industry?
There was not that it was a well, yeah, I became a pretty big name, but there was one interesting character. Always funny you ask this question because I always say tell the story is Virgil. Virgil was on the indie scene and with Dick actually had a hand in getting him around to meet different people. And he was a strange dude. He was a different guy, but I got to know him and he ended up being pretty cool. That was one of the guys. So like one day we're on an indie show with him, and the next thing we see a vignette on TV with him and Ted DiBiase as he's as Virgil as DiBiase's guy. And I called Dick up. I said, "Did you see TV last night? They did Virgil. I forget what was it. Soul something on the Indies. I forget his name on the Indies. He did like a red, white, and blue type thing, and we did a show that Saturday, and that following week he was on WWE TV as Virgil, DiBiase's right hand guy. And I called Dick, and Dick had no idea that he got signed. So it was pretty cool. I met a lot of not met, but I actually trained with and helped train a lot of guys before they got to ECW, the Sandmans, the Stevie Richards, the JT Smiths, the Pitbulls. A lot of those guys went through Joel Goodhart's TWA wrestling school. TWA, I'll be the precursor before ECW, where a lot of those guys started, and it was pretty cool to see them grow into the business as well.
And you got to work with them before ECW came about, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of those guys' first matches, ref their first matches in TWA. A lot of them I watched train to get into the business, and yeah, it was just pretty cool watching them go, and then where we ended up with ECW.
ECW, to this day, fans still talk about, what a cultural impact it made on the wrestling business. Tell me what your experiences was like signing with the company and getting the chance to work with all these different players.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Todd Gordon, who of course started ECW, he actually took over when PWA went out of business. Todd kind of took it over and started Eastern Championship Wrestling. And it was me, Todd, Bob Ortiz, Larry Winters, a couple other guys that met at the Springfield Stadium where Bob Ortiz used to work. And we had the meeting, and Todd was telling us how he wanted to start this Eastern Championship Wrestling. And I was always Todd's probably one of my closest friends, even to this day in the business, and he always took care of me. I met him in TWA. He brought me on to Eastern, EC, and into ECW, and further along, and of course met Paul later. But yeah, Todd was the guy. Well, first of all, Joel Goodhart was probably my first mentor. Being lucky enough to work with him in TWA, and then when Todd started ECW, it was good. So I got three pretty good mentors: Dick Worley, Joel Goodhart, and Todd Gordon. Not a bad three guys to learn the business from and be able to proceed in it.
Now, back then, I mean, this was before, Paul Heyman took control of the company, and
Right?
at this time, ECW was quite kind of trying to find its footing. It wasn't as, intense and hardcore as it later became, but what was it like being a part of the early days of ECW? Because not many people really talk about that experience.
Yeah, and that's a shame too, because I always say the history of ECW with the workers, no matter what the circumstances, the boys and girls working on those shows busted their ass every night, whether it was 10 people in the crowd or 1,000 people in the crowd. That started back in TWA and then morphed into ECW, and that always stands out to me is the work ethic of all these guys learning and then proceeding into ECW that really stands out for me.
Yeah, I mean that camaraderie and brotherhood, sisterhood, it really whenever I talk to people like CW Anderson I had on and Francine, they
Yeah,
both said that it's like a family environment. They hadn't, every time like they'd go into a locker room, it was a very friendly atmosphere.
yeah, it really was, and those two that you just mentioned, CW and Francine, I'm friendly with them still today, and that family atmosphere lives on. That we're all kind of out of it. CW still working, he's still wrestling, and but I don't think it'll ever go away. We see each other's at conventions or shows, or we talk and online or Facebook or on Twitter, and it'll never go away. I mean, that was something special that was created with a bunch of special people, and it'll never be forgotten.
Now, as a referee, things can go wrong at any time. What are some things when you're refereeing a match that you kind of have to watch out for, keep in mind of, and kind of avoid?
Right. Well, like I said, Dick was like the one who beat it in my head before. Is kind of stay out of the way unless you have to be involved. Let the guys do what they're doing. Let them go through their spots. I've been in the ring with some big injuries that's happened, which were unfortunate, like Sabu and Chris Benoit when Sabu got his neck broken. That was pretty scary environment, and just working with guys like Terry Funk and Abdul the Butcher and Kevin Sullivan, who all three of those guys scared to death of, and I stayed as far away as possible as I could to any of them when I was in the ring with them. But there's guys in there that get into the ring and there's like a switch they flick, and they're not the nice Terry Funk or the nice friendly Sabu outside the ring. They go into wrestler mode, and you got to know to stay out of the way and know what to handle, know what to do, and just be there for them when they need you.
Yeah, I mean, especially, when you're in there with people that really, have intense styles, you really have to pay attention and watch what's going on. 'Cause it's like it get pandemonium, the
Oh,
volume gets
yeah,
kicked up,
quickly,
quite a bit.
yeah, very very quickly. I mean, I'm sure you saw the. I wasn't doing that match, but the legendary ECW arena show with Funk and Cactus, where Terry called for a chair, and all of a sudden there's 200 chairs in the ring, and guys are buried underneath it. And I mean, just stuff like that is kind of what made ECW so special. This spontaneous craziness that would happen from time to time. There wasn't a show that was the same. There was always something in ECW, month after month, city after city. That there was always something different that went down in an ECW ring.
Now, you got to be a part of so many different matches. What were some of your favorites to work?
My I say it all the time. I love working with Shane Douglas. Anything I worked with Shane Douglas was always a pleasure. Um, my favorite series of matches were two in ECW. The Jerry Lynn, Rob Van Dam matches. I loved working them. Those guys just had a connection that was just phenomenal and a pleasure to work with. And that was kind of like your classic wrestling match, not a hardcore blood guts. It was got two guys that could really go. And then you had my other favorite set was Tommy Dreamer and Raven series. I mean, you had a 2 year program with those two guys. And I was lucky enough to ref the first match where Tommy Dreamer finally got that win after that long period of time with Raven at the arena before he would leave to go to WCW. That's one of my favorite matches ever to do was Raven Dreamer, the final match they had, the singles match before he left. And I was lucky enough when WWE ECW started to do Van Dam and John Cena, which was pretty cool working with Cena. What an atmosphere that was up in New York. That was something special as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel that passion, whenever there's two guys that, can't stand each other and you're having to really like, call everything right in the middle and kind of like watch out, tempers could flare at any point. And you hear that crowd, man, they've got so much passion for the industry. I mean, what's it like, going to the ECW arena or going to Philly or going to all these different places where you have, so many fans that just show so much passion, like the ECW fans?
I say it all the time, and I'll give them kudos till my last breath. I'm a big Philadelphia sports fan, big Eagles fan. I work for the Phillies part time with their security team, Flyers, Sixers. I'm a born and bred Philadelphia sports fan, and that same Philadelphia sports fan is mostly the same people that is the Philadelphia wrestling fan. They are passionate, they are loyal, they spend their money, they come to see you no matter what. Um, what made ECW special, other than the locker room and the refs and the managers and Paul and Todd, was that fan base that came there every month. Those people were out there at 10 in the morning tailgating for an 8 o'clock show at night at the arena, just having a blast all day long. And they would come into that building and would want something special. We would give them something special, and they would come back and react special. And they are the Philadelphia sports slash wrestling fan. There is no other. There is nothing better than those group of people. I'll say it until they put me in the ground.
Now, how long were you with ECW for? Were you there until the
I
the
was there
closing?
day one to the last day.
Wow.
There's only two people that were in ECW from the start, day one, to the very last day, and that's me and Jim Molyneux. Nobody else was there the whole length of the promotion. People were in and out, WCW, WWE, back and forth. We were the only two guys there from start to finish.
What was your reaction to when things shut down?
It sucked. I mean, it started. You knew it was coming probably a year out. I mean, because things started to change. You weren't getting paid. Paul wasn't there a lot. Tommy was really taking over the company. Tommy was running things in the back. Um, the big thing was you guys they just weren't paying you, and guys would start not coming in and stuff like that. But I got to hand it to the guys and girls. A lot of them could have just turned their backs and left from getting. I mean, that was their livelihood of most of those people. Luckily, I never left my full-time job for as long as I was in wrestling. I just knew about the business, and I knew it just wasn't. It was cutthroat, and it could be taken away from you like that. And so I never had left my full-time job. But a lot of these guys, it was their full-time job. But they hung around, they stuck it out, they busted their ass still every night. And again, that's just what made ECW special, because those guys went down to that last day, and when the company finally closed, giving it their all every night.
Now, what point did WWE contact you about joining up with the company? Was that before the relaunch? Did they call
Well,
you?
yeah. It was before the first one night stand. Actually, Tommy Dreamer was the talent relations guy in WWE, and he's the guy who reached out to me. Hey, we're going to put this one night stand show together, 2005, and they're letting us do what we want to do. Use all the old ECW guys, referees, managers, ring announcers, Joey Styles, all those guys, and we'd love to have you. And I love Tommy Dreamer, another great guy in the business. I said, I'm in. You don't have to ask me twice. I'm in. So we did that first one night stand in 2005.
And you look back, coming up on, well over 20 years since that event took place, to see like so many people, out there and put on a show, it really harkened back to the glory days of the promotion. And you watch and it's like, oh my gosh, you never think this would happen, but
Yeah,
here we are, still
it
talking
was.
about it.
Yeah, the first one night stand was a lot. Not that the second one was bad, but the first one I thought was more ECW ish, not ECWWE ish. Um, and that New York crowd was just as passionate as the Philly crowd. And it was a while, it was years since ECW closed down, and everybody that came to that show wanted to see the old ECW and all the guys. And it was just an unbelievable, probably one of the best pay-per-views of any company that I've ever seen or been a part of was that first one night stand. It was just a special night.
And the second one happened, and then they started the third brand, ECW, later in 2006. Did you get a chance to be a part of that after the second one night stand?
That's actually when I got the offer to come in full time after the 2006 second ECW one night stand. Tommy was still the talent relations guy that hooked everybody up to be on the second one as well. And after the pay per view, he called me. That was a Sunday. He called me Monday, and he said to me, "Vince loves your work. You're going to hear from John Laurinaitis. He wants to sign you full time." And I'm thinking, Tommy, I got a full time job. I got two young kids at the time, health insurance, the whole deal. I just can't walk away from that. And he said, "Well, just listen to what they have to say and see." So we did the first ECW WWE TV taping in Trenton that Tuesday. And after the TV taping, which stunk, was terrible. It got such bad reviews, and the zombie guy and all the other nonsense that they tried to pull in that TV taping just didn't go over. So John Laurinaitis got all the ECW people together for a meeting after that, after we taped the TV show, and basically stood there and ripped all of us of how horrible the show was, this, that, and the other thing. And we're thinking to ourselves, wait a minute, we didn't write this show. You guys wrote this show. We went out and did, this obviously wasn't ECW. This was WWE ECW. But after that meeting, everybody left, and he was talking to two different people. And he said to me, John Laurinaitis said to me, "I want to talk to you after this meeting. Come on back 20 minutes. So I came back and knocked on his office, and he and brought me in, and he wanted to sign me full time, and I just couldn't do it. The money would have been good, probably would have been the same money I was making at my regular job, but there was no health insurance. You're walking away from a 401k. You're walking away from all different benefits, and I turned it down. And he said, "Well, we love you. We think you're really, really good. So anytime um, WWE ECW is in the area, you're booked. So come to the show and you're booked." And I did that for about a year and a half. My last show was the Survivor Series in Philadelphia about a year and a half after that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's kind of nice though that they allowed you to come in and work a few shows, in where you were in your hometown,
yeah. I got well, and it's funny you say that because I got to work at the time the Wells Fargo Center, which is the big arena here in Philadelphia. I got to work Madison Square Garden. They taped an ECW TV show in Madison Square Garden, which was unbelievable to do that building. And I couldn't tell you how many, two, 3 dozen shows over that year and a half in the area that I came in and did, and they were more than gracious and took care of me.
Well, kind of compare the two atmospheres. You're working in ECW, you know, passionate fan base, family environment, working in WWE, which is a whole nother, animal. It's a machine. And so kind of walk me through, the differences you felt, from your time in ECW to your time with the WWE.
Well, the big difference I think was crowd because we did all the TV tapings before SmackDown. So we were in a big arena of WWE fans. It wasn't the ECW arena with those passionate, crazy lunatics that were out there tailgating all day waiting to see you. It was a lot of kids, a lot of families. It wasn't an ECW crowd. So that's the first hurdle we had to go over. The second hurdle, as they went on and on trying to bring ECW back, it got more and more WWE'd, for lack of a better term, using their own guys, bringing WWE guys in because they didn't have faith that they were going to draw ratings and crowds. And it got too much WWE. And to the point when Vince put the ECW title on himself, that was the end of it for me. And then that December to Dismember pay-per-view they did, which was atrocious. Uh, that was the final nail in the coffin, I thought.
It's hard, to recreate something that and recapture something that you had been a part of for so many years. And you just can't recreate that feeling of what the original ECW was. It was very authentic and, gritty and real, and being able to duplicate that, it's just you can't do that.
Yeah, there's no way it was going to happen, and I don't think Vince had any option to try to recreate it. He didn't create ECW, so he was going to try and make his own ECW or turn it into his form of ECW, and it just didn't capture the sense that the original one did.
Now, outside of wrestling, I know you've been able to do a lot of charity work and have done so many different things in your community over the years. What kinds of activities have you done and special causes that you've been involved with that you've been able to help out with over the years?
Oh, the big one I did over the years was Todd Gordon was back in the day was involved in the Variety Club, which is a local charity in Philadelphia that we did a lot of stuff for over the years, probably through halfway through the ECW existence. We actually had shows there for the kids. Oh, it always involved something where we would bring a show somewhere to a chill kid space type of event, and yeah, we did a lot of that over the years, which the kids just ate up and loved and appreciate us guys coming out and shaking hands and taking pictures and then putting the show on for them.
Yeah, I had Todd on, and he talked about that very same thing. He was very passionate about being involved with that. Was there like a particular event that you were part of as part of doing the work with the Variety Club that was heartwarming for you?
Yeah, there was. He always had a big show once a year in the summer. We would do things in other places, but there was always a big one at the camp. It used to be in the Philadelphia area. I forget exactly where it was, but it was in the Philadelphia area. And we would do that once a year where all the guys would come in their big like gym type area set up. and it was just nothing but kids, unfortunate kids with whatever disability or thing they're going through. We're all there, and every one of them just they lit up as soon as the show started, and just to see that reaction from all of them, from us guys coming in there and doing what we do, to watch them just light up like a Christmas tree. Enjoyed it. I look forward to doing it every year. It was so enjoyable.
What causes are you passionate about? Like outside of your work with DCW and your time with the Variety Club, what things are you big on?
Uh, I don't get involved in a lot now. I'm busy with the Phillies and with my regular job, which is my new normal job. But yeah, there's just always I just try to stay positive and friendly with people. I've always wanted to have fans remember me as being a nice guy, easy to approach. And in this business, there's a lot of guys that are tough to deal with. And I think if you're just nice to people, that goes a long way without having to go to a charity event or go to some other event. Just when people come up to you, just be nice, just be friendly. I mean, our world today is a mess right now, and just something is we can get something back as basic as that. Let's just be nice to each other and enjoy each other's company.
Exactly. Making a difference in someone's life is just as important, and also treating each other well the way you want to be treated. Who
Yeah,
You can't ask for anything better than
yeah,
that.
I agree, absolutely.
Well, John, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you? If you have anything to plug, feel free.
Nothing to plug right now. I'm on Facebook, John Finegan, my real name. I'm on X or Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I'm on there. I'm on Instagram. I don't do a lot on Instagram. I look at Instagram, but I don't put a lot on there. Mostly Twitter and Facebook under John Finegan.
All right. Well, thanks again, John, and you're more than welcome to come back.
I appreciate it, Stan. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
You too, man.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.